You don't know the world you're living in.
Welcome to the future.
Welcome everybody to another installment of the show. As always, I am the Gadfly, sent by God to rouse you Athenian men from your slumber. This episode is going to address the commonplace notion that one should always be skeptical. It's going to criticize the methodology of skeptics and offer an alternate methodology. Let's get into it. Most modern skeptics on the internet or in popular media take their lead from the French philosopher René Descartes, beginning with doubt and trying to find a foundation for their belief. A skeptic of this vein will say something like, "I'll believe it when I see it." But in the 19th century, an American philosopher named Charles Sanders Peirce took direct aim at Descartes, accusing him of engaging in a trivial exercise of the mind, rather than genuine inquiry. See, for Peirce, inquiry only takes place to settle doubt, and doubt is an irritation in something that we already believe. Peirce thinks that we begin with our beliefs, and then some evidence will come along that will rattle those beliefs and expose them as less than worthy of being held. So we engage in a process of inquiry to try to either reestablish the strength of our prior belief or to throw it out as a mistake that we've agreed to. Superfluously throwing out beliefs and trying to pick them back up in an epistemological game of pickup sticks is not genuine doubt, according to Peirce, who suggests that we ought to believe something until we have reason not to, rather than the skeptic position, which argues that we should doubt something until we have reason to believe. Immediately, the concern that this is naive comes to mind, because we might end up believing everything we hear. But Peirce gives us a famous, yet not so eloquent maxim by which we can test all beliefs. He suggests that a belief is equal to that which you might do when you have that belief. In other words, he thinks that a belief matters only insofar as you're prepared to do something about it. It's the ultimate actions speak louder than words philosophy. This idea that the actions we might take in response to our beliefs are in fact what those beliefs mean, is what's known as the pragmatic maxim. And to be clear, the distinction between skepticism and pragmatism is foremost one of methodology. A skeptic begins with a blank slate and tries to bring in data so that he can put a belief together with the gathered resources. A pragmatist, on the other hand, maintains his beliefs and only begins to throw them out when they show cracks. Where a pragmatist looks for those cracks is in the actions that those beliefs warrant. As a result, pragmatism is heavily intertwined with the scientific method of falsification. In order for a pragmatist to get rid of an idea, he has to be shown why he should not believe that idea. This is very similar to the scientific method, in which a hypothesis is granted to be accurate until an experiment falsifies it. The reason that a pragmatist begins with belief and looks for doubt, rather than begin with doubt and look for belief, is because for a pragmatist, a belief is a blueprint for action, and a belief is judged to be true if and only if it can effectively predict outcomes. I will note that there are some pragmatists, beginning with William James and continuing on to Richard Rorty, who understand this to mean that truth is relative, and if an idea produces a favorable result, then it can be said to be true. Philosopher Charles Misak at the University of Cambridge draws a clear distinction between those relativistic pragmatists and the more objectivist ones, like Peirce. In the Peircean tradition of pragmatism, a belief ought to produce the predicted result, not merely any old result to which we would give a thumbs up. This is an important distinction because it means that a Peircean pragmatist would say that a belief can be true but immoral, whereas a Jamesian pragmatist would say that if a belief does what you want it to, then it's good. James calls this the cash value of an idea. With all that being said, I do not want to paint the picture that a pragmatist is a person who never allows his beliefs to be questioned. The exact opposite is true. A pragmatist must test his beliefs. But what is important is how he tests those beliefs, and why. The modern skeptic will test his beliefs to see if the evidence supports them. A pragmatist will test his beliefs to see if the evidence can destroy them. This is a fine nuance, but the implications are tremendous. After all, it's always easier to find evidence in support of something rather than evidence to the contrary. This is true because data exists raw and uninterpreted. It's our interpretation that makes it speak to us. And if we look for data which supports our perspective, we can, like epistemological ventriloquists, make the data say anything we want. But if we, with a sense of humility, look for data that will reprimand us and reject us, then we can be comfortable in disavowing our hypothesis. And if no such data arises to scold us, we can feel ever so slightly more confident in our belief, yet all the while vigilant that such a data point might arise to pull out the rug from underneath our feet. Thank you for watching. I hope I made the distinction clear enough. If you thought it was a good video, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, jump down in the comments to tell me why pragmatism is stupid and Descartes has the best mustache in all of philosophy. Or maybe if you want to agree with me, you can do that too down there. And I'll see you on next week's episode.
They were men seen, either that or everyone else's.